Remove my mask.
Okay, your next witness.
Calling Gabriel Traverso, Your Honor.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony given in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do swear.
Please state your name in full and spell your last name for the court's record.
My legal name is Gabriel Phelps Graham. Last name spelled Graham. My given name was Traverso.
Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you. Gabriel, would you prefer I call you Gabriel, Mr. Traverso, or Mr. Graham?
Gabe is fine. Gabriel.
Gabriel, we're going to focus on a time period of November 13th to December 4th.
Okay.
First off, how are you related to this case?
Tacey is my sister. The boys, Orion and Archer, are my nephews.
And when was the last time you visited?
It would have been the December 3rd, the 4th, I took a plane. So that was my last visit.
And so for how long were you staying with Tacey at her home?
It was just from the 13th to the 4th. The plan at that time had been that I was going to move in with Tacey and the boys long term.
And what was the reason for your visit, for you coming here?
Well, I was going through my own marital issues and trying to move out of home with my ex-wife. And Tacey and I had started to reconnect in October. And she offered the solution that I could come live with her. And in exchange for rent, I'd be helping Orion help with the boys, specifically at that time because Orion was having trouble at school and Tacey had to work and couldn't attend to all the time out of school that Orion was in.
Where was Sarah during this time?
Sarah was not there. My understanding was that there had been a breakup prior to me arriving.
Okay. So during your visit, how much opportunity did you have to observe Tacey with the children?
It was about 2 weeks, I believe, that the boys were there. And when the boys were there, I was there. Tacey was there with the boys. I was also pretty much in the room, but not always right in the room.
And were you working or doing anything outside the home during this time?
No. But my plan had been to work on my own writing projects when I wasn't helping with the boys.
So is it fair to say that you were there the entire time at the house?
Correct, that's correct.
And what kind of observations did you make with regard to Tacey feeding the boys?
Well, I mean, while I was there, the routine that I noticed was that the boys were basically fed.
I'm sorry, you're getting a bunch of feedback, so we're going to have to do something to stop that, so I can record the proceeding.
Maybe it's really see if that.
Maybe speaking.
Yeah, my audio-visual experience. Okay, so the question was my observations about the kids feeding. Okay. What I noticed was that the kids were given a diet of primarily snack material. So a huge part of that, I'd say a third of their diet, were Trader Joe's peanut butter and jelly granola bars. And then dinners were a mix of that with slices of salami, some grapes. A couple times Tacey cooked a meal, but it would be like chicken served and without anything else, just chicken or just tri-tip beef. One of the things about feeding though that really ultimately was disturbing to me was that if the boys didn't get enough to eat at night once they gone to bed, and they'd come back out from the bedroom complaining that they were hungry, at that time, Tacey would swear at them to go the fuck back to bed. And that happens almost, if not every night that I was there. And I did mention, well, they might be hungry and they didn't get enough to eat, but that didn't change the outcome.
Do you have other concerns, or what other observations did you have while you were staying there?
Well, the number one observation that I had right away, because again, I'd been asked to help with Orion. He was having behavioral issues at school. And after spending the first day and a half, first 2 days with him, at the end of the night, my observation to Tacey was that Orion was missing her and wanted to spend time with her. And it was my opinion at that time that if she spent 20, 30 minutes a night at the end of the day connecting with Orion, that's what he ultimately wanted, and that would be incredibly beneficial to his behavior. But I didn't observe that to happen. So while I was there, the typical behavior as soon as Tacey got home, because I was home all day, and I would walk Orion to and from school, and then Tacey would pick up Archer from daycare. And as soon as she got home, she would put on her headphones and check into her Facebook accounts, I guess. And the boys would basically be left to their own devices the entire time. The only real interaction that I saw that wasn't that type of scenario was on Orion's birthday, when Tacey spent time building a Lego set for Orion. What alarmed me the most, what I observed, was also starting from the beginning of my visit. Tacey told me from the very beginning that I had to be prepared to defend the boys to the death because there were shadowy forces of evil that were hunting for Tacey and her children, and that they'd been hunting for her all her life because Tacey is the reincarnation of Jesus and Buddha. She also told Archer in my presence that he was the reincarnation of Jesus as well, but that the main thing was that there was this army of people who were going to try to kill them. I had to be prepared to defend. And then another thing that I found very alarming was that the bedtime ritual, which as a parent normally involved, for me, reading a story and putting someone to bed, the kids were put to bed almost entirely in Tacey's master bedroom with the door closed, but with Christmas music blaring so loud that it could be heard outside the home when I took a cigarette break. And that was the nightly routine, was they would go to bed, and if they came back out, they would be screamed at to go the fuck back to bed with this really, really loud Christmas music. That coupled with several times Tacey telling me and also her boys that anybody who is not autistic like them needed to die, and she hated them all. And she came home several times, having left work early, in tears, expressing these sentiments in front of the children. The combination of all that is why I reached out to CPS and the Washougal Police Department.
So you contacted CPS regarding your concerns?
I did. It took a few weeks of reflection once I got home. The entire incident was very traumatizing, and it triggered me quite a bit. I had to process it. I wasn't sure what to do. And it wasn't until I was sharing my concerns with a teacher friend who asked me if I knew what mandated reporter means, which I do because I've been through foster training. I tried to be a foster parent. And it was then that I realized all those 6 months of classes that I took about how kids in the foster system are abused and neglected and what that could look like to prepare me as a potential foster parent, that I realized that I had been seeing signs of abuse and neglect there. And so at that point I called CPS. And then because I knew my sister had a high-capacity assault rifle in a pawn shop that she couldn't get out because there was a restraining order against her, I also called the Washougal Police Department, indicating my concern that she could potentially become a workplace shooter or something like that.
And did you express these concerns to anybody else?
I shared these concerns with my father, my mother, my children, my ex-wife, and several of my friends who are part of my support structure.
did you express these concerns to Caitlin?
Yes. So my first course of action was to, once I realized I needed to say something, is I reached out to Tacey and via text message and explained that I wouldn't be coming back, the reasons why, my concerns that she was allowing the trauma of our childhood to affect her parenting in a negative way, in an abusive way. And then I sent an email to Kate explaining my concerns, and also I believe I included screenshots of the text messages between Tacey and myself.
I'm going to show you Respondents Exhibit 105.
Okay.
Is this the email that you sent to Caitlin?
It is. Yes.
And is it a complete and accurate copy of that email?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Respondent moves to admit Exhibit 105.
101 through 126 have already been admitted.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Do you have any concerns with regard to Tacey's mental stability at this point?
Absolutely.
And what are those concerns based on?
All of my observations and time spent with Tacey and her children. In addition, after reaching out to Kate in December, I learned that there were other issues that had come up that seemed to corroborate that there was a significant problem going on in the house.
When you were there, did you see any guns in the house?
Absolutely, and it's actually the topic of guns is one of my biggest regrets about my time there, because Tacey does have guns, and what I learned working with children who are troubled youths, as I was, that a child will be highly motivated to spend time with their parent, but also by their interests. And so I learned there really quickly that Orion was very interested in firearms. So the arrangement that I made with Orion was that if he behaved at school and worked on the things that we talked about, we called it following the program, which he understood as doing what he was meant to do, that we would spend time every night doing something he wanted to do. And so sometimes we played Nerf battles or lightsaber battles, and Orion was very, very interested in learning about firearms. So that was one of the things that I did while I was there, and I regret that, because now I believe that Orion should not be, he's not ready and needs his own help, mental health-wise.
And were the firearms that are in the house, are they kept in a locked safe?
Not all of them.
So some are and some are not?
Correct.
And the ones that are not, where are they located?
Bedroom, closet.
And is there ammunition within reach of those guns?
I don't know.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination? Sorry, I can't hear you.
This mute button, my apologies. When was the last time prior to the winter, this in 2019, that you observed me parenting my children?
I don't recall the exact date, but it had been at least 5 or 6 years.
For the duration of my boys' lives, how much cumulative time would you say you've observed me as a parent?
Not very much time. I'd say maybe cumulative, probably be just over 2 weeks.
When we talked about you coming to stay with me, didn't I mention that I was working very diligently on 3 separate legal cases at the time and needed your help with watching the boys and comforting them?
I recall that you said you were working on legal cases. I didn't remember the number or quantity. Okay. But yes, I was aware that I was there to help.
On the single occasion that I recall, telling Archie to go back to bed when he was hungry, didn't I ultimately go apologize to him and present him with food?
I don't recall that.
Did you abuse me as a child?
Objection exceeding the scope of direct examination.
Overruled, goes to bias.
I'm laying the foundation.
I said overruled, goes to bias.
Does that
Did
mean
you abuse me as a child?
Yes.
Based on that history, do you think that your very presence could have been a trigger for me when you were staying with me for those 2 weeks?
Well, I'm not a mental health professional, so I could only speculate.
Were you always in the room with me and my boys?
Well, no. I mean, you gave them a bath at sometimes, and I didn't go into the bedroom when you went in to yell at them.
Didn't I also go in to tell them that they were safe and loved and kiss them goodnight?
You did that a number of times, yes.
Didn't I explain to you that the children really like listening to Christmas music to fall asleep?
You may have explained that. However, that was not listening to children's music. That was not listening to Christmas music. That was the volume of the music is what I've seen in torture scenes in the movies.
Do you have any evidence of any of your allegations against me during that time?
If you give me a specific allegation, I could respond to whether or not I have evidence.
Do you have any evidence that I tortured my children?
Only my own observations.
Do you have any evidence that I swore to my children, yelling at them every night when they went to sleep?
Only my eyewitness testimony.
Do you have any evidence that I was mentally unstable at that time from a health professional?
No, I'm not a mental health professional.
Did you know that I was going to therapy during that time?
Yeah, the only thing I know about your mental health is what you've told me.
No further questions.
Redirect.
No questions, Your Honor.
Right, you're excused as a witness. Don't discuss your testimony with other potential witnesses. Your next.
Very good.
Yes, Your Honor. Laura Traverso.
I'm unclear, Your Honor. She's calling me again?
No, I think you said Laura.
Yeah. Her mother.
That's my legal first name.
Are you calling Laura Witter?
I am calling the petitioner's mother.
Okay.
She's Rainey or Witter? I'm sorry, she is Laura Witter or Laura Rainey, either one.
She's coming.
I do apologize, Your Honor. My witness has a knee injury, and it takes her a little while to get down home. Here she is.
May I take my mask off?
You may. Okay.
Can you
But I'm
raise
going to
your
put
right
mine
hand,
on.
please? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this trial be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do.
Could you state your name in full, then spell your last name for the court's record?
My name is Laura C. Witter, W-I-T-T-E-R.
Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you. Ms. Witter, what is your relation to this case?
I am Tacey's mother, and I am Orion and Archer's grandmother.
And when was the last time you had a visit with the boys and your daughter?
I honestly don't remember, but I think it was last summer, maybe, or last spring.
Okay. And how often do you talk to your daughter?
My daughter does not talk on the phone. My daughter sends text messages. So if she's communicating with me, she can send several text messages in a short period of time. if she's not communicating with me, she doesn't.
Okay. And how much interaction have you had with the boys?
Lately, not much. Summer interaction, holidays, Christmas. We did a couple of years. We did a stint down in Disneyland with all the family. That was totally fun. This year, it's just been FaceTime.
So my understanding is that you have some concerns about the welfare of your grandchildren.
I have concerns about the welfare of my grandchildren.
Can you express some of those concerns for the court?
I can express my concerns for the court, but I have to kind of think of how to make it logical. I'm going to start by saying that I think my daughter needs help. And that until she gets that help, she's not going to be a complete and good parent to her kids. And I know she loves her kids. I know that. So my concern is that her behavior is unpredictable. It's based on triggers. And that's not good for the kids. Now, the thing that really got me and pushed me over the edge was the violence and the guns.
So let's talk about the guns first.
Okie doke.
Tell me about the guns.
Tacy has, in her adult life, had guns. Her father has had guns, and so she kind of grew up with that. Oh, I have guns. My dad has guns. And I'm not sure why. And now that she's in her wolf mode, I know why. It's to protect her and her kids from the outside world.
You mentioned behaviors. What kind of behaviors have you observed that have caused you concern?
Well, as I said, I haven't seen her for about a year, so it's hard. It's hard to respond to that question.
Okay. Observations can also come from thoughts that occur to you during a phone conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any phone conversations that have caused you concern?
Oh, well, the wolf thing.
All right,
Sure.
Let's talk about the wolf thing. Explain the wolf thing to the court.
So, a couple things happened at the same time. One, Tacy diagnosed herself as having Asperger's, and that became her central identity. I have Asperger's, and I'm going to be the best Asperger's person in the world. And she has shared a lot of ideas with other people with Asperger's that I believe have been helpful to them. But somewhere along the line in that, she said she was a wolf. She was a wolf. And she had past life regressions, and people have asked me, does she literally think she's a wolf or figuratively? And I would say both. She talks about the behaviors of wolves, their loneness, their loneness, and their needing to hide their true selves from society. And she's taught that to her boys. She's taught her boys that they are wolves and that they need to be wolves in sheep's clothing in order to get through society and not be...
Objection, Your Honor. How would she know what I'm teaching my boys if she's not here?
Well, it's my understanding that she was testifying about conversations that she'd had with you, so that would make it permissible. If you're not testifying about conversations you've had with her or things you don't have personal knowledge of, then don't do that. You're only supposed to testify about what you know.
I am testifying about texts and posts.
From your daughter?
Yes.
Okay, proceed with your answers.
Go ahead.
I don't know where I left off.
You were talking about teaching the boys.
Oh, teaching the boys,
teaching wolves in sheep
the
clothing.
boys to be wolves in sheep clothing. She told me she was teaching them to be wolves in sheep's clothing so that they would survive in the social environment that they live in.
Okay. Are there other concerns that you have for the boys?
Small concern, lack of predictability in the household. Big concern, the guns, going back to the guns. Big concern about the guns.
Okay. Do you have concerns about your daughter's mental stability?
I have concerns about my daughter's mental stability.
And is there anything other than the wolf thing?
You know, she erased all of our text messages, but if you could look at that text message thread, it's really easy to see this sort of decline and deterioration in mental stability. And I cannot refer to anything concrete because she erased them. So we've been concerned, I think since, Kate, when did you guys break up? Last summer?
That was about 3 years ago.
Oh, since she broke up with Kate, things got wonky. That's a very specific term, I realize, but it's like that was a trigger for her. And Kate was replaced with Sarah, who was tasked with the same job. And when Sarah left the first time, that was a trigger. And Tacy was really sad and upset. We had a lot of conversations, and we had conversations about when she broke up with Kate and divorce and that kind of thing. I mean, we had conversations. And I think that she has said in her video about me that I've never been on her side, and that is not true, because I tried to help her with these divorce issues, having been divorced myself, to make it easy and equitable for both parties. And that didn't sit well. And I think that's pretty much when she stopped talking to me by phone.
And when was this, do you think?
I don't know. I think it was when Kate was getting divorced, when they were getting divorced.
Okay.
Because I don't think she talked to me much about Sarah, because Sarah was a quickie marriage and a quickie split up. You know?
And when they were together, did you have a lot of interaction with them?
Kate?
Kate, yes.
Yeah. Well, I would say yeah. We had holidays. I would come up and visit. We would meet at our cabin on the American River and spend a week together, which was just heaven, and I miss it so much, and I wish I could have that Tacy back. We would play dominoes. Tacy would barbecue. Kate would take the boys to the river to swim, which was right down the steps from the cabin. And it was just lovely, wonderful family time. And my cousin Becky and her husband were there too. It was just great.
During that family time, who was more hands-on with the boys?
Kate.
And is there a big difference in their parenting styles that you see?
Kate is much more hands-on, and Kate is much more, let's explore the world. Let's explore the world. Tace is, I almost got the feeling that she was waiting for the boys to get old enough so they would be a little more intellectually on her level. And so she likes to build things, and she got zillions of Legos, and the boys would build Legos. She was a wonderful creator of Christmas atmosphere. I don't know about and Halloween too. I think she was a wonderful creator of Halloween atmosphere. I don't remember her ever taking the boys outside unless we were going as a group to visit the Science Center or Powell's, our favorite stop, or the zoo. Tacy pretty much was an inside parent.
And are you aware of what Kate is requesting in this action?
No.
Do you think that the children should be with Tacy full-time? Sorry.
No, I didn't want to spit water.
It's okay.
May I make one more comment about that?
Actually, yeah, let me ask, I don't know
Okay.
if the judge got your answer to that question.
Oh, okay, the answer to what was the question?
Do you think that the children should be with Tacy full-time?
I do not think the children should be with Tacy full-time.
And do you think that Tacy should have sole authority over all decisions pertaining to the
I
children?
do not think that Tacy should have sole authority.
No further questions.
Do you have questions? Mr. Birchall, are you all right? Do you need a minute or?
Can I make a comment at
All
some
right,
point?
why don't you take a minute to do that?
Okay.
I do want to cross-examine, please, Your Honor.
All right, well, if you think you're ready, go ahead.
Is it reasonable for a parent to want to defend their home and their children from harm and intruders?
I think it is reasonable for a parent to want to defend their home from harm and intruders when that harm and intruders is real.
So are you saying that whether a robber or home invader is going to come to your house is something that can be expected and scheduled in a way that we could then decide we're going to protect ourselves?
No.
Okay. Do you acknowledge that I'm a spiritual person?
I'm sorry,
I do
because
not-
you had the cloth over your mouth, I couldn't understand what your question was.
Do you acknowledge that I'm a spiritual person?
I do not see you as a spiritual person.
Is the concept of spirit animals and past lives a part of other cultures' spirituality besides your culture of spirituality, which is Catholicism?
You don't know my spirituality, and yes, those things are part of other cultures' spirituality.
When I was younger, did I do a lot of reading about different religions and ask a lot of questions about them?
You did a lot of reading and you asked questions, and I don't recall whether they were specifically about other religions. You were a very curious young lady.
Would you say that I'm a writer based on my advocacy work and the blogs that I write?
Could you repeat the question?
Would you say that I am a writer based on the blogs and the advocacy work that I do with respect to autism?
I would say that you are a skilled writer.
Are you a writer?
I am a skilled writer.
When writers communicate, even verbally, do they often use metaphors to get their point across?
Metaphors are a tactic used in writing.
What is my degree in?
Rhetoric, I believe.
And did you know that my degree specializes in oration of arguments and discussions?
No.
So is it possible, based on the fact that writers frequently use metaphors, that when I was communicating with you about the wolf in sheep's clothing, I was using it as a metaphor?
It did not seem like you were using it as a metaphor.
Didn't I mention to you that I was working to communicate to my children that, especially Orion, while he is autistic, like I am, he still needs to learn to work within the social structure that exists today?
Could you repeat that?
Didn't I communicate to you that, especially with respect to Orion, I was working to teach him he needs to learn to work within the social structure that exists today.
Yes, but I'm not sure that he's been properly diagnosed as autistic.
He has been disregard. Would a sufficient metaphor for helping a child learn to work within the social structure that exists today contain the possibility of concealing their true selves until they're in a safe place at home to let their true selves out?
I find that a terribly troubling metaphor for a young child.
Do you have any evidence that I specifically gave that metaphor to my young child?
You told me.
Do you have evidence of me telling you?
No, because you erased it.
How did I erase things on your phone?
You cleared the content of our text messages.
My understanding of iPhones is that's not possible for me to clear your text messages.
You can look at my phone, your text messages have been cleared, and I cannot recover them. Anna says that it's possible to clear text messages she has.
Is Anna an expert in technology with respect to iPhones?
What you two are doing right now is not helping me a bit. So move on to something else.
Yes, sir. You stated that I diagnosed myself as autistic. However, didn't I notify you that I was formally diagnosed by a psychologist and then went to a new psychologist to confirm that diagnosis?
You did say that.
Did you abuse me as a child?
I neglected you at times.
Did that neglect lead to trauma that you observed in me as an adult, in your opinion as a mother?
Big question. I can't answer that question.
Isn't it true that at one point you apologized to me for neglecting me when I was a child?
Probably.
So by that answer,
I'm going to add something to that. Because a mother, when she looks back at how she has raised her children, can look at every single child and see the things that she would rather have done differently. And I would apologize to all of my children for the things that I would rather have done differently. The biggest thing being a raging alcoholic.
how many of your children, of your 4 children, have attempted to commit suicide?
Relevant?
Your Honor, I am going to object at this point. She is going way beyond the scope of direct examination.
I'll sustain the objection.
You don't have to.
Considering the strained relationship that we have, do you think that I have a difficult time keeping in contact with you?
Given that you just fired me as your bio mother, I would say yes.
No further questions.
Redirect.
Ms. Witter, is there anything else that you feel the court should consider with regard to making a parenting plan for these children?
Oh gosh.
That's not a proper question on either direct or redirect. You just ask a witness to say whatever it is they want to say. Do you have questions on the witness?
All right, Your Honor. I'm trying to give you the opportunity to say that.
I know.
Ms. Witter, are you angry with your daughter?
I am so not angry with my daughter. She just sent me a very hurtful video, and I took it as, oh my God, my daughter is really hurting. I did not take it as, how dare you say these things to me? I am not angry with her. I love her. I want to get back to the Tacy who would go to the cabin in the summer. I want to get back.
I'm sorry.
Tacy,
I'm sorry. I appreciate that you're all having a very emotional time of this, and I don't mean to suggest that has absolutely no importance to what I'm doing. But this is not appropriate place for the two of you to deal with each other in this way. That is not what this
Okay.
court proceeding is about.
Okay. Sorry, Your Honor.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions, Mr. Traverso?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can be excused. Thank you for your testimony, and don't discuss your testimony with other potential witnesses. Do you have additional witnesses, counsel?
No, Your Honor, since the court ruled that I can't call Sarah Skinner.
Do you have rebuttal witnesses, Mr. Traverso?
No, Your Honor.
Your closing argument, then?
I do, but I do request a short recess
Yeah, why don't we take
to
about
gather myself.
Let's take about 5 minutes, then. Hopefully you'll be able to proceed at that time.
Thank